When I was in grade 12, I had this teacher who loved flagging books. She was like in love with post-it notes. And when we read books in her class, we got marked on how many things we flagged. The more post-it notes that were in the book, the better mark you got. And not only did you have to just put a post-it note next to something that stood out to you in the book, you had to write what it was and what it made you think about. And you had to have different color post-it notes, and there had to be a color for things about characters, and a different color for things about themes, and a different color for things about plot, and a different color for things about questions. And when I was reading books for this English class, I had to do it at the kitchen table, or the dining room table. Ready to post-it note everything! Everything! And for our final ISU, the book that I did this for was Jurassic Park. And it took me so long to read the sequel, because I felt like I was gonna have to sit at the dining room table with my post-it notes ready while I was reading it, because it was similar to the book that I had to do this with in English class. There was even once halfway through reading a book when she was like, I want to make sure that you've got post-it notes talking about these things, and I was like, well shit, I didn't do that! And so I had to go back and put more post-it notes. And I had to look for things and be like, where did I read a thing that was about this? And go back and find it and put a little post-it note. And because there were so many, sometimes there were multiples on a page, you couldn't put a whole post-it note. You had to rip little sections of a post-it note and write tiny on it and stick it on the page, and there were so many! And I couldn't even like go through it or read it properly anymore comfortably because there were so many post-it notes sticking out of my book everywhere! And then when it was time to hand them in, the teacher didn't even freaking read them. She was like, she flipped through them and was like, oh good, lots of post-it notes. Are you freaking kidding me? And that is why I do not flag my books.